Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Naruto Was the Dark Fox of Konoha Part 2. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
As the group went into a small building, Tazuna yelled, "Tsunami, I'm back." After giving the old man a hug, a young woman ran out and looked over the group. Tazuna stood off to the side so that his daughter could introduce herself to the ninjas. "These are the ninjas I hired, and trust me, they've already proven to be better than what I paid," he said. She just bowed and thanked them for keeping her father safe, then told them that dinner would be ready soon. As she went back to the kitchen, everyone saw a little boy staring at them. He turned around and ran upstairs before they could figure out what was going on. Tazuna said, "Let me show you guys the guest room." She led them upstairs to an empty room that the four of them would have to share. But it didn't bother them too much. When Tazuna left the room, Kakashi turned to his students. "Okay, you three, you're going to have to do exactly what I say while we're here so that nothing bad happens to you." Naruto nodded, since he knew the routine, but Sakura and Sasuke looked a little surprised at how serious their sensei was before nodding. "Now, before I tell you what will happen, do you have any questions?" Sasuke asked. "Since you both knew the Hunter Nin was a fake, why didn't you both attack and kill them?" Kakashi sighed as Naruto ignored him and just put a sleeping bag on the floor for after dinner. "For one thing, we didn't know if that was the only person Zabuza had working with him. If I had killed him and then his partner, I might have caused us more trouble in the end. Also, our mission isn't to kill our enemies, but to protect Tazuna until his bridge is finished. Since Zabuza is probably still alive, he will come to try to finish his mission and get his sword back." He then turned to look at Naruto. "What are you going to do with that thing, by the way?" "Since I have a weapon, I offered it to them and Sasuke took the offer. It's a little too heavy for him, so I sealed it into a scroll. But once we get back to Konoha and put him through some strength training, he'll be able to use it. Maybe he'll get famous for using one of Kiri's famed blades against them one day, who knows?" Naruto said with a smirk as he finished setting his area up and just sat down. Kakashi gave Sasuke a nod and then looked at him. "Okay. Smart move, Naruto, and I can start you, Sasuke, on some light strength training while we're here. But I'm sticking with Naruto's decision to wait until we get back to Konoha before you actually get the blade and train with it." Surprisingly, the Uchiha didn't argue, but just sighed and nodded his head in agreement. Then Sakura pointed out something that she had only just barely noticed but that everyone else had missed. "Wait. Naruto called Sasuke-kun, Sasuke, not Uchiha." Both Kakashi and Sasuke looked at Naruto with surprise, but Naruto just gave a shrug. "He finally earned some of my respect by doing what his superior told him to do and doing it better than expected. Sure, he reacted badly to Zabuza's killing intent, but I did the same thing the first time, so I won't hold that against him. Plus, he's serious about his training and hasn't said, 'Uchiha are gods,' in a few days, so I can be around him without wanting to rip his head off. You, Haruno, have a long way to go before I'll respect you," Naruto said. Sakura looked down, and Sasuke didn't seem to care about what Naruto said, but he was secretly glad the boy would stop looking down on him like he was better. Even though he was a Uchiha and better than everyone else, he wasn't going to say that again until he was strong enough to back it up. Naruto had told him over and over that bragging about things you can't do just makes people mad and makes them turn against you. In the meantime, Kakashi sighed. He thought, it's good that he's starting to talk to them more, but he needs to learn how to say things in a more subtle way. At that moment, Tsunami called them all for dinner. "Okay, team. We'll start training tomorrow. For now, let's just eat and take it easy." The Hunter Nin muttered, "First I need to cut off the bandages," as they reached out to grab the ninja wraps that were covering Zabuza's face. Then, the ninja's hand shot up and grabbed the hunter by the wrist. The hunter opened his eyes and looked at the ninja in a mask. "Damn, Haku, you sure are cruel," he said as he let go and started pulling out the needles. The person, who was now known to be Haku, said, "Please be careful, Zabuza-sama. You could hurt yourself even more." After taking the senbon out, Zabuza did nothing but grunt and rub his neck. "So, what happened after you hit me, and will you take off that silly mask, girl?" "Oh, but I like the mask," Haku said as she took it off with her hand, revealing brown eyes and a young, beautiful face with a small smile. As she thought about what had just happened, she shook her head and made a sad face. "After I killed you, I tried to get your blade back peacefully, but the blonde boy said he would keep it, and if we wanted it back, we'd have to pay for it. I didn't want to fight and risk blowing my cover, and I couldn't argue with him more because you could have woken up and ruined the ruse, so I just grabbed you and left. Zabuza growled, damn that jerk. The Kurai Kitsune was really as sneaky as his name suggested. He was faster and stronger than expected, and he was said to know some fire jutsu and cage bunshin, which is said to be the best cloning technique after Rai bunshin or lightning clone. Even worse, he wasn't even using the skill that got him into the books. Yeah, B rank only covered him because he was young and didn't have much experience. That kid would definitely get AS if he lived long enough. Okay, Haku. We'll have to come up with a plan while I heal. For now, just drag my behind to the hideout. I still can't feel my legs. Sometimes I think you're more cruel than I am. Haku laughed a little and then did what she was told. Okay, you two. Today I'm going to teach you how to climb trees, Kakashi said as he led the three of them to a small clearing in the woods near the house. He then pulled Naruto to the side and gave him some orders in secret. The blonde nodded and left, leaving Sasuke and Sakura in the clearing with him. Sakura seemed about to say something, but Kakashi stopped her. Without using any hands. Watch. He then slowly walked over to a tree, sent chakra to his feet, and walked up it as if it were as flat as the ground below them. After walking up and turning himself upside down on a branch, he went back to his other two students. This is a chakra control exercise that all ninja learn by the time they become chunin. It works by channeling chakra to your feet to create a stick that lets you walk and run on vertical or upside down surfaces as if they were normal ground. It can also be used for other things. For example, Zabuza held his sword to his back without a harness for it. The two of them looked eager to try it, so he threw a kunai down to where they were standing. Channel the chakra to your feet, then head up the tree and mark your progress with the kunai. Since you're just starting, it would be best to get a running start. Both of them got down on their knees and picked up the small ninja knives. They were about to start when Sasuke asked something. Wait, what about Naruto? What's he doing? Sasuke asked. Kakashi had pulled himself up so he was sitting on the branch instead of standing on its bottom, and he was about to pull out his book when Sasuke asked. Kakashi thought for a moment, then shrugged his shoulders and said, I don't see why not. Naruto has already mastered this exercise and the one that comes after it, so I sent him to guard Tizuna today. With his cage bunshin, he can help build the bridge faster, and he'll send a clone here if something comes up and we're needed, he said as he took out his book and started reading. Sasuke just turned around and ran up his tree after putting his chakra into it. He took 8 steps up the tree before the bark broke under his feet and pushed him off. He quickly cut a line to show how far he had gone, then turned around and got ready to run again. This isn't so hard once you try it. He looked up and saw Sakura already sitting on a branch as high as their sensei and smiling down. Sasuke was angry at how easy it seemed for her to do it. Also, he couldn't figure out what else it was. Pride? Happiness? He didn't really know, but he pushed the feeling away because he was jealous at the time. Kakashi looked over at her and gave her a eye smile. Now, they knew that he couldn't show much emotion because his face was covered, and they knew that his gesture was his smile, so to speak. Very good, Sakura, but the reason you find it so easy is because you have smaller reserves of chakra. Sasuke, on the other hand, has larger reserves, which makes it harder for him to control the chakra. To help build your reserves, Sakura, I want you to keep running up and down the tree. This will not only build your reserves, but also your physical stamina, so get to it. Sakura sighed and jumped down from the tree, then got ready to go back up it. After hearing Kakashi explain it, Sasuke realized that the only reason she was able to do it so quickly was because she wasn't as strong as he was. At least, that's how his mind saw it, which kept his ego from thinking that he was the weakest member of the team. He shook his head to clear his mind and got ready to try again. Naruto stood off to the side and said, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. While Tizuna waited a moment, all of a sudden, 100 clones showed up, and Naruto started giving orders, even though everyone else was shocked. Okay, 20 of you are going to patrol the area and make sure everyone is safe. The other 80 of you are going to follow Tizuna's orders and help build the bridge. The faster this thing is built, the sooner Nami can get better and we can go home. Now get to work. The clones nodded and went to do what they were told, while the original went back to Tizuna's side. And while you're ordering more workers, I'll keep an eye on you from a distance and be ready in case my clones find something. Oh okay, stuttered Tizuna, Still amazed that the boy had made 100 copies of himself and then told them what to do. He finally shook his head and told the clones where they could be used and to ask the other workers to show them how to do things. As the worker clones ran off to do their new jobs, Tizuna walked up to one of them and asked a question that had been bothering him since they met Zabuza. "Hey, you know everything about the real one, right?" The clone replied, "Yeah, but one good hit and we're done, and he'll have to make more." "Okay. Is what Zabu said true? Did you really?" The clone looked down and said, "Yes." Tizuna was surprised that someone so young could kill so many people, and she was getting worried about being so close to a boy who killed with a smile. As if it could sense his worry, the clone made him feel better. "Don't worry, I'm not going to go crazy and start killing everyone. That was a one-time thing, and I haven't killed since then. You're not in any danger from me, and to be honest, I hate killing." "Then why did you?" Tizuna asked the boy, who had caught her attention. The clone just looked away as it thought about whether or not to answer him. The clone then shook its head. Something happened. Something really bad happened, and I couldn't handle it. I snapped, and I didn't calm down until I had killed all of those people." It said to change the subject before leaving, so he said, "I'd better get to work on the bridge." Tizuna watched it leave and then turned to the real Naruto, who was sitting cross-legged with his head down and his eyes closed. He had a blank look on his face. As they ate dinner, Naruto asked, "So, how far are you on the exercise?" When Tizuna got home, he quickly thanked Kakashi for sending Naruto to the bridge because Naruto's clones were making a huge amount more than before. Even though they sometimes disappeared because of small accidents, like hitting their own hands with the hammers or something, the boy would replace them and get them back to work right away. If this kept going, the bridge would be done in a week or two instead of about a month. Sakura finished her food before she answered for both her and Sasuke, who was still eating quickly. "Well, I could do it on my first try, so my sensei told me to keep doing it to build up my reserves while Sasuke-kun is almost all the way up already." Naruto nodded as Sasuke bit back a groan when he was reminded that Sakura could do it so easily. "Sensei told me you did this in the next step, so if it's okay with you, I'd like to know what the next step is." Naruto asked. "You're not going to go off and do it yet, are you?" Sakura just shook her head and said she was interested. The blonde just gave a shoulder shrug. "Whatever, it's walking on water." "Water walking?" "Yeah, you can walk on water by putting chakra in your feet," Naruto said with a shrug. "Me, Sensei, and Zabuza all did it in the fight. The difference between water and stable ground is that the chakra output has to be constantly changed. Unlike the tree you guys are using now, the water's surface is always moving, so you have to change the chakra you put out to make up for it. Also, it takes more chakra to stand on water than on solid ground. When you can climb trees for 3 hours straight, I'll teach you both how to walk on water. I think that once Sasuke gets the hang of it, he'll be able to do it easily while you're getting close to Sakura, so I'll probably add it to the workout routine back in Konoha after the mission." He was done eating and wanted to read his book, but whenever he did so in front of Inari, Tsunami would glare and yell at him. So, after trying it once, he said he wouldn't do it again while the little boy was around. "But for now, you two should just focus on finishing this exercise and getting stronger." "Why do you even bother?" everyone asked the young boy who was staring at them all. Tizuna and Tsunami sighed as the boy insulted and yelled at their ninja guests, while Sasuke and Sakura wondered what was wrong with him. Kakashi didn't pay attention to it, and Naruto laughed as he went back to eating. "I'd love to see him try. As far as I know, Gato is just a short man with a cane. There's no way someone like that could beat a ninja. So stop whining, and we'll show you when we stop him from hurting your grandfather." "What do you know, huh?" yelled back Inari. "You don't know our country. You don't know what it's like to suffer." Kakashi's eyes widened and he was about to say something, but Naruto slammed his hand on the table, getting everyone's attention. Then they all jumped when the blonde glared at Inari with cold, dead eyes. Naruto spat out, "I know nothing about suffering. I don't know anything about it." "Tell me, boy," and the child started to shiver. "Have you ever had to live on the streets? Or how about living with the fact that your entire village wants you dead for something out of your control? What do you know?" "Huh. I never got to know my parents as they died the day I was born. I was kicked out of the orphanage at 5 years old because the caretakers hated me for a reason I never knew. I had to live off garbage and scraps for 2 years before the only kind person in my life found me and gave me an apartment. But all that did was tell the village where I was at. causing the mobs that would beat and try to kill me to break in to attack me. Have you ever been beaten within an inch of your life actually hoping for death just to make it all stop, only to be saved for it to happen all over again the next week? I had to go through that for 4 years, on my birthday no less. And then when I finally get people that actually like me as a friend and that I enjoyed being with, they're killed in front of me by enemies that just wanted to torture me. Now that the blonde was staring at Inari, his killing intent was leaking out without him realizing it. This scared the civilians and his partner Jenin, who were shaking in fear. I've known nothing but suffering my whole life, and you accuse me of not knowing it. You have a mother and grandfather who love you. You have a family who would do anything for you. I doubt you've even gone into town to see the orphans on the street who are suffering worse than you. But at least they aren't sulking around in self-pity trying to bring everyone else down. When he left, Inari got up and ran to his room while the others tried to catch their breath. Sensei, was all of that true? Sakura asked in a shaky voice as the others tried to calm down. She couldn't bring herself to say it, but she asked, did Naruto really go through all of that? Kakashi sighed because he didn't want to talk about all of it. Yes, to all of it. His parents died in the Kyuubi attack 12 years ago and he was placed in the orphanage like a lot of others. However, there's something about him, something I'm not at liberty to say as it's his secret, that caused the older generation to hate and despise him. The older generation then turned you, the younger, against him by saying he was a bad child or that he was dangerous. The matron that ran the orphanage eventually grew tired of him and threw him onto the streets in the middle of winter when he was 5. Naruto would be on the run from drunken mobs almost every night and only survived by grabbing food from the trash outside. He spent 2 years like that before Hokage-sama found him hiding in an alleyway one day. The Hokage instantly took him to his place and after finding out everything he set him up with an apartment and a stipend of money to survive on until he could become a ninja and live off his own earnings. Kakashi shook his head as he thought about it all. He wanted to take Naruto in and adopt him, even though he knew who Naruto's parents were. But as an Anbu, he knew he could never take care of a child, so he hoped Sarutobi or Jiraiya would. But one only came to the village once every few months, and the other was too busy running the village and spending time with his own family to watch over one small child. But, as Naruto said, that only let people know where he was, Kakashi said. His apartment was broken into almost every day, and his things were stolen and broken for no reason. When he went to the academy, his education was mostly stunted because people wanted to keep him weak and pathetic. Then he barely managed to graduate early, passing by only 4 points higher than the fail mark. He got a few teammates and me to hang out with him, even if it was just for training at first. But that was enough for him, and for the first time in his life, he felt. Sasuke and Sakura were both looking down and thinking about how bad Naruto had it, while Tsunami was crying freely and Tazuna felt like he needed a drink. At this point, Kakashi had only one more thing to say. Naruto blamed himself for their deaths, and he still does. That's why he trains himself to death and is cold to everyone. He doesn't want to see anyone die in front of him again, and he doesn't want to get close to anyone either because he doesn't want to feel that pain of loss again. Naruto muttered as he stomped into a clearing in the woods, fucking brat. Saying I don't know suffering. Let's see him go through one day of my life and survive. If it wasn't for this fucking furball, even I would have died. He looked around, then called up 100 copies of himself and looked at all of them. I need to blow off some steam. No jutsu, all of you against me. He then threw a punch and got rid of the clone closest to him. This did 2 things. It made the clones close enough to hear his orders start attacking him, and it told the ones farther away what they were doing. The boy's words made Naruto angry, so he just gritted his teeth and started fighting. They made me remember a lot of bad times. Omake joining a group, the students were now sitting on the roof of the academy, and their sensei was sitting across from them with a light glare. After telling them to meet here, he ran off, changed clothes, washed the paint off his face and out of his hair, and ran back. It took him a little more than 10 minutes, but they didn't seem to mind waiting a little longer since they were still laughing at his expense. Kakashi sighed, but he still decided to start. Why don't we start by getting to know each other? Koji asked Kairi, who was sitting on his lap. What do you want to know, sensei? As he scratched behind her ears. Kakashi just gave a shoulder shrug. Oh, just a little bit about you guys. Like what you like or don't like. What your dreams are. What you like to do for fun. That sort of thing, Koji said. The 3 genin nodded, so he began. My name is Inuzuka Koji, and this dog is my partner Kairi. I like dogs, beef, and hanging out with my cousin Kiba. I don't like cats, Rain, or Kiba's sister Hannah. For fun, I train or walk around the village with Kairi, and my goal is to become the best hunter nin in Konoha. Koji said with enthusiasm. Kakashi nodded and then pointed to the only girl on the team. My name is Sakuya. I don't know my family name because I'm an orphan. I like pranks, my friends, and watching the sunset. I don't like fangirls because they give Kunoichi a bad name, and I'd like to beat the crap out of them any chance I get. This made Koji laugh because he remembered a few sparring lessons where she did exactly that. My hobbies are training and learning to cook, and my dream for the future is to become a powerful and respected kunoichi before settling down and having a family. As soon as she was done, Naruto started talking. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen, pranks, and the Hokage. I don't like how long it takes to make ramen and people who try to hold me back. My hobbies are training and pranking people who don't like me, and my dream is to be the best Hokage ever. Naruto shouted. As Kakashi thought about his team, he closed one eye. He had a boy who wanted to lead the village, a boy who wanted to be a hunter, and a strong-willed kunoichi, which was hard to find right out of the academy. So, let's find out what they can do. I'm Hitaki Kakashi. I like a lot of things and don't like a lot of other things. As for my hobbies, I have a few dreams. All three students sweated and thought the same thing. We only knew his name. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, I'll tell you what we're going to do, he said as they looked at him with expectant faces. Meet at Training Ground 7 at 7 a.m. tomorrow for survival training, he said. They looked confused, so he told them what he meant. There's one last test you have to pass to become genin of the village, and I'll give it to you tomorrow. Sakuya asked. Then what was the point of the test we passed here? That was just to see if you could be useful and get rid of the hopeless cases. This test will see if you have what it takes to be a genin. Just so you know, this test has a 66% failure rate. That means out of the 8 teams formed this year, it's likely only 1 or 2 will pass at best. If you fail, you'll have to wait another year to try again. Now, remember to be at the grounds at 7 a.m. tomorrow, and don't eat breakfast or you'll throw up. He then disappeared in a cloud of leaves, leaving the 3 people on the roof alone. Before Koji shook his head and got up, they just looked at each other. Kairi said, I'm going to see if my 2-san is back from his mission and can give me some last-minute training. I'll see you both tomorrow. She jumped onto Koji's shoulder and barked her own goodbye before leaving. Sakuya just sighed and looked at Naruto again. What are you going to do then? I have to train. I'm going to see Hokage Gigi to see if he knows any cool jutsu I could use tomorrow. Bye, Sakuya. Naruto shouted as he got up and ran away. Sakuya didn't even look at where he was for a second before shaking her head. She was impressed by how fast he moved. Her team was doing some last-minute training, so she did the same. With that in mind, she got up and went home to get what she needed. Haku said to herself, this looks good, as she bent down and picked a herb from the clearing she was walking through. She looked around and saw that the clearing was full of different herbs that she or her master could use. She kept working and gathered them up with a small smile until she got farther into the clearing and stopped. The blonde boy from Konoha was lying against a tree, his clothes torn and dirty in many places. The person who took Zabuza's sword and made it impossible for him to fight Kakashi. Zabuza told her that the supposed Kurai Kitsune would be killed if he got in their way again or didn't give back Zabuza's prized blade. Haku narrowed her eyes as she slowly walked up to him while he was lying down to check him out. She stopped when she saw his face. It wasn't how calm he was during the battle or how funny he looked when he argued to keep the sword. It was painfully bent, and he sometimes twitched in his sleep. It almost seemed like he was having a bad dream. But she couldn't know what it was. Then she remembered what Zabuza had said. Haku, stay away from that blonde brat. Only fight him if you have to. He's dangerous, and I'm not sure if you could beat him or not, Zabuza told him as she put him to bed to rest and get better. She gave him a small frown because he usually praised her as someone even he would not want to face. When asked, what's so dangerous about him? The former swordsman just sighed and put his head back on the pillows before answering. Haku, I don't know the whole story. I don't think anyone does outside of Konoha or Iwa, since he went on a rampage against them. You saw those 2 with him, right? Well, did you hear him say that they were both new and weak? He had a couple teammates before those 2. I don't know what happened, but the word on the street is that they got killed in front of him and he went crazy, Kind of like how you said you went the pain of losing her mother and being called a monster by her own father, plus the fact that her own father was trying to kill her, made her lose control of her powers and kill everyone before she could calm down enough to see what she had done. She ran, and not long after, she met Zabuza. If this boy had been through something similar, she could only imagine how bad he must have felt to kill so many people while smiling. She was a little bit curious about how the boy kept going, since Zabuza had to find her and take her in before she could move on. Did he have a special person who could help him through his pain? Just try not to fight him, Haku, Zabuza said again, pulling her out of her thoughts. I'll try to deal with him after I deal with Kakashi, and I'll make sure to get my sword back, too. Haku just nodded and went to get some of the things her master would need to get back to full strength, but her mind kept going back to the blonde. Haku whispered to the boy as he slept, I wonder what happened to you that you can only show your pain when you sleep? She had wanted to talk to him and find out what he was like when not in battle. Maybe you could get to know him and find out how he was handling his loss. She also knew that this might be her best chance to kill him to help her master reach his goal. He was a threat, and now that she thought about it, he was also a thief. It was clear that he didn't have the blade on him at the moment. He probably had it locked up or left it at the bridge builder's house. She'd have to look for it. But for now, she could do something that had been on her mind for a few days. Slowly, she reached out her hand to him. Get out of there. Run. Koji ni, Naruto-kun move. Sakuya-chan. No. No. Naruto yelled as soon as he woke up. As soon as he realized he wasn't alone, his instincts took over, and he had the girl by the throat in less than a second. His left hand was covered by a gauntlet, which pinned her down and slowly choked her. His right hand was cocked back, and a ball of swirling blue chakra was in his right hand. But Haku could only see his eyes. There was no pupil or anything else in them. It looked like his whites of the eyes had turned blood red and taken over the rest of his eyes. Still, she could see the pain running through them through their dark, angry eyes. Naruto was about to hit her with his jutsu when the whispers of his darkest day stopped, and he realized he wasn't dreaming anymore. When he realized what he was doing, his face softened. He had a random girl by the throat and was about to use an A-rank jutsu against her for no reason. He dropped the jutsu with a gasp and let go of her as he fell backward. His eyes soon went back to their normal blue color. The girl coughed and rubbed her throat as Naruto, who had just woken up with a rush of adrenaline, was panting. Oh, Kami, I'm so sorry. I did all that on impulse and didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Haku said, It's okay. I shouldn't have sneaked up on a sleeping ninja. I'm sorry. As she rubbed the spot on her throat where his metal-covered hand had been choking her, he apologized. After a few seconds, she looked up and saw Naruto just staring at her with a frown and an obvious look of guilt on his face. No, really, it's fine. I still feel bad about it. I mean, I just attacked you for no reason. Is there anything I could do to make it up to you? Haku was quiet for a moment before he looked around the clearing. Well, I was picking herbs before I found you sleeping here. If you have time, I wouldn't mind if you helped me get them all. Naruto just smiled and nodded as she started to show him where to get them. As they worked, she decided to make small talk with him and his team to find out more about them. Plus, he seemed really sorry for attacking her, so she thought he would never think she was an enemy or had other plans. So, Ninja-san, what were you doing out here? It's not good to sleep in the middle of the woods. You could get sick. Naruto had to hold back the urge to laugh at that. He couldn't get sick because Kyuubi had made his immune system so strong that not even poisons could kill him. Slow him down for a little while, sure, but don't kill him. I'm here with my sensei and teammates to watch over someone while they work. But last night, I got upset with the client's family, so I came out here to blow off steam. I must have fallen asleep after that, Naruto said. Haku did nothing but nod as she picked some more herbs. She asked, So what happened, if you don't mind? Because she wanted to know what might make him angry so she could avoid it. Before he spoke, Naruto shook his head. The client's grandson talked about things he had no right to talk about as if he knew everything. It got under my skin, so I argued with him a bit before coming out here so I wouldn't lose my temper and attack him. I see, but I thought ninjas were supposed to be able to control their feelings. That's what I've heard from the few ninjas I've met. I know, but what he said really hit close to something I'd rather not talk about, Naruto said quickly, showing that he didn't want to talk about that subject anymore. Haku felt a little down, but he decided to give up and move on to something else. You said you were here with your sensei and team. Tell me about them. Sensei is fine, but he's lazy when he can get away with it. As for my teammates, one is a stuck-up jerk and the other is a useless fangirl to said jerk. I really don't want anything to do with them. Haku was surprised by this because Zabuza had told her that Konoha practically beats teamwork into their children's heads. Part of the reason why Konoha was seen as the strongest was because they always worked together and covered each other's flaws so well that they were almost impossible to stop once they got going. Zabuza always tried to separate any Konoha ninjas he met from their teammates, because they always fought better as a team than most people could handle. Given what she knew about his village, it was strange to hear that this boy didn't want anything to do with his team. Why is that? Aren't you teammates? Doesn't that mean you're supposed to work together? Be friends? His answer made the girl even more confused. As soon as she said, friends, he laughed. They aren't my real team. Don't get me wrong, I'll work with them when I have to, but when I don't, they do nothing but annoy me. We aren't a real team. We're just people who are stuck together because of outside forces and needs. My real team. Naruto's eyes seemed to glaze over as he thought about them. My real team died a long time ago, Haku said quietly as she put the herbs that the two of them had picked into her basket and stood up. Do you have anything important to you? She asked the boy out of the blue. Anyone you care about and would do anything to protect? Naruto asked as he stood up. I think a person becomes truly strong when they have something important to protect. Naruto shook his head and walked away. It was nice to talk to you, and I'm sorry again about when I woke up, he said. Haku just nodded her head and walked away. After talking with him, she saw that he had lived the same way she had. He wasn't a bad person, but after losing those who were important to him, he seemed to have lost his way. She would feel the same way if Zabuza were taken away from her. I'm sorry that we have to fight. I think we could have been friends if we had met in a different way. Ah, Naruto. Welcome back. Kakashi had just left the house when he saw Naruto walking up from the woods. After taking a look at how he looked, which was a little messy, he stopped himself from frowning. Are you up for watching over Tizuna again today, Naruto? Let me take a shower and change into clean clothes, and I'll be good. Okay. I'll take Sasuke and Sakura out again to train them more. If something goes wrong, send a clone, he said as the two named genin followed him out. Both Sasuke and Sakura saw Naruto, but Sakura couldn't bring herself to look at him. Sasuke, on the other hand, was trying to stare at Naruto with curiosity while keeping his cool and uncaring look. Naruto sighed as he walked by the genin, but when he got close to him, he spoke a little and kept going. I don't need or want your pity because of my life story. Just work on getting stronger so you can stop it from happening to you or the people you care about. Sasuke and Sakura were a little surprised as he walked past them into the house. Even if they weren't ninjas, anyone could see that he was still angry about what Inari had said the night before. It was written all over his face. But no one thought he would say something like that. The two looked at each other silently for a moment before Sasuke shrugged and walked over to where Kakashi was waiting. Sakura followed him a moment later after taking one last look at the house. As Naruto came out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around him and headed to the room where his team was staying, he saw Inari watching him from his door. When Naruto turned around and looked at him, he jerked and shut the door to hide. Naruto shook his head and kept getting dressed and getting ready to leave. But behind the door, Inari was thinking about what Kakashi had said to him the night before. The boy was crying as he sat on the pier near their house and looked out at the water. Kakashi came up and sat down next to him. After a few quiet minutes, the boy asked the question that had been on his mind. Why? You'll have to be a little more clear. When Inari asked, why doesn't he cry about it all? Why does he act like nothing's wrong? Kakashi sighed, but this was the reason he came out in the first place, so he told him. Because he knows that crying doesn't solve anything. The last time he cried was at the funeral of his old teammates. He hasn't shed a tear since, as if they all dried up. When he was young, crying just made the mobs attack him more. When his old team died, crying didn't bring them back. Listen, Inari, what you said really got to him. Naruto has mostly had a bad life, and the worst part, in his opinion, is that he knows there are others who have had it or do have it worse than he does. He didn't mean to snap at you, but seeing how you are when you have what most people would consider a good life just made him mad. The man stood up and walked back into the house as Inari turned back to the water. Make sure you don't stay out too late, or your mother will be very worried about you, Kakashi told the boy. When the boy muttered and said, okay, Kakashi went back inside to let the boy think about what he had heard. Sensei? Yes, Sakura. The two genin were still running up and down trees as part of their training, and Kakashi was watching them from a distance while reading a book. Sakura was running up and down, though. Still having trouble getting to the top, Sasuke fell off and had to start over at the bottom. Do you think you can help me with something when we get back to Konoha? Sasuke asked the scarecrow as Sakura rested on a branch. The scarecrow gave him a shrug. She was getting better at keeping the chakra flow going while running up and down, and now she could do it for an hour and a half before she had to stop. I don't want to be a weak link on the team. Kakashi smiled at her desire to improve herself. We'll have to wait and see what happens when we get back to Konoha, won't we? If nothing else, I can have Naruto teach Sasuke how to use his new sword and give you some tips and tricks to use when we get back. I'm proud that you're going to start training harder, Sakura. She nodded and took another deep breath to fill her lungs, then jumped down from the branch and started running up and down the tree again. Soon after that, Sasuke went back to running. Even though he was a little annoyed that Sakura might get time alone with their sensei, he remembered what Naruto had said when they first became a team. Sensei and I were fine on our own, but the council didn't want him to teach you. The only thing Hokage-sama could do to make everyone happy was to put you on my team. They wanted to get rid of me and have him teach you on his own. After seeing his Sharingan, Sasuke knew why the council fought so hard for Kakashi to be his sensei. Since Kakashi was the only other person in Konoha with the Uchiha Keke Genkai, he was the only one who could teach him the details that he couldn't learn from anyone else. Even though he was glad that people cared so much about his education, he didn't like how the council seemed to put him above everything else after getting to know Naruto and Kakashi. He liked that they wanted to give him the best, but he didn't want to get it at the expense of someone else. He wanted to kill Itachi, but he didn't want to be seen as just as bad as the man who did it. Things like that could make people angry at him and his clan when he was ready to rebuild them. He also thought that training with Naruto alone wouldn't be too bad. He hadn't gotten his Sharingan yet, so Kakashi couldn't really teach him anything that only he could use. Naruto also said that he had a weapon. Since it seemed like Kakashi didn't have one, Naruto would probably be better able to help him with this. So, let Sakura get her special training from Kakashi. He had another way to make sure he still got strong enough to do what he had to. The rest of the week went by without any major events. Naruto and Tizuna would keep an eye on the bridge while Naruto made clones to help build it. The clones' memories helped them get better and more skilled every day. Eventually, the old man could just give them simple orders and they would start working right away without having to be taught what to do. 2 days after Naruto's little explosion, Sasuke made it to the top of the tree, while Sakura only lasted 3 hours on the 4th day. Kakashi wasn't going to teach them how to walk on water until they got back home, so when Sasuke was done before Sakura, he started him on exercises to make him stronger so he could use the Kabikari when they got back. For Sakura, he only taught her a genjutsu that would let her hide herself and her friends from her enemies. There wasn't enough time to make her strong enough to be offensive, and she knew it, so he gave her a technique to keep her alive longer and help Naruto or Sasuke. Okay, guys, it's been a week. If Zabuza's injuries have been taken care of properly, this is about the time he'll be able to attack again, so we're all going to the bridge to protect Tizuna. Naruto, leave some clones behind to watch the house, Kakashi told the 3 genin as they ate breakfast. Naruto nodded silently and made 10 copies of himself. The copies then went to hide around the house and take up defensive positions. Even though what Kakashi said made Tizuna a little worried, he felt safe in their hands, so he didn't say anything about it. After eating, they all went to the bridge, but what they saw when they got there was scary. All the men were either unconscious or dead on the bridge, which was covered in a thick fog. Tizuna wanted to run up to them, but Kakashi put out his arm. Sakura, watch over Tizuna. Sasuke and Naruto, take care of Zabuza's helpers. I'll take care of the man himself. Oh, do you think those brats can beat my apprentice Kakashi? As the mist began to clear, they could see that they were surrounded by clones of Zabuza. The real Zabuza stood up a little further down the bridge, and the fake hunter stood next to him. He had what looked like a normal broadsword on his back. He said, I'm going to get my sword back, too, Kakashi. I can't believe I had to use my old training blade, as he adjusted the blade on his back. Please, Naruto and Sasuke, Kakashi said in a calm voice. The 2 boys nodded, Sasuke with a smirk on his face and Naruto with a cold glare. The 2 disappeared from view, but then they were standing back to back in front of Kakashi as all the clones fell into water. Hey! I expected that from the blonde, but you've been working the other one pretty hard, haven't you? Haku may have a challenge now, he teased, but both of them were worried on the inside. Zabuza thought he could beat Kakashi if he attacked him the right way, and he was sure Haku could beat the blonde. Or at least keep him away long enough for him to finish off the S-ranked opponent he was fighting before he joined in, at which point they would both attack him. But now that another one of Kakashi's students could fight, Haku's chances of winning were much lower, but they had to act confident to try to fool their enemies. It was a common strategy that worked pretty well right away on young or new people and took a little more work to work on more experienced people. Make it look like nothing is bothering you and everything is going your way. This will make your enemy nervous because everything they do seems to be going wrong, which could cause them to lose their cool and make a mistake. Then you come in for the kill and complain about how close they were to winning. If you showed how scared you were, your enemy would be more likely to use the same tactic against you. Zabuza said to Haku, "Well, why don't you go play for a while so that Kakashi and I can have some fun?" As he waited for Kakashi to move, Haku just moved a few steps forward and then disappeared. Sasuke yelled, "Too slow," as he charged forward with a kunai and blocked a blow from Haku's senbon. After trading a few blows, Haku jumped back to avoid Naruto's flaming fist, which hit right where she was a second before. The girl had never been happier to wear a mask than when she was too close to the hit and had to frown and sweat. Even if I only had to fight the Kurai Kitsune, it was going to be hard. I don't think I could win with this boy around. Haku dodged a kick from Naruto and then used a senbon needle to hold Sasuke's kunai back. Sasuke told him, "Give up. You can't fight both of us." Even though she knew it was true, she didn't say so. Instead, she acted like fighting them didn't bother her. "Oh, really? Well, I think I have the upper hand right now," Sasuke said, looking confused. Then she raised one hand and started making seals with it to do a jutsu. This surprised Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi. She can use seals with one hand? Before Haku stomped the ground to start her jutsu, all three of them thought the same thing. Sweden. Sensatsu Suisho. Water release. 1,000 flying water needles of death. As she did this, the water from Zabuza's clones rose up and formed needles that surrounded Naruto and Sasuke before shooting at them at high speeds. Both boys used chakra in their legs to avoid getting hit, and Haku did nothing but stand up straight and look at them both. "I thought I couldn't fight both of you at the same time. What's wrong? Are you sure this needs to be done?" Two thugs were walking up to Tizuna's house when they said, "Gado doesn't think Zabuza can do it, and he plans to kill him anyway. This is just extra insurance in case the guy loses again." They didn't even try to knock on the door. Instead, they just kicked it in and walked in. When the door opened, Tsunami was making lunch for herself and Inari in the kitchen. When the door closed, she stopped, scared of what they were there for. "That's her." "Yes. Listen up, lady. Gado told us to bring you with us." Before either man could move, though, Inari walked in and rubbed his eyes, which made everyone turn around. When he saw that the thugs were looking at him, he couldn't finish his question. "Do we really need both of them?" "Nope. Good. I wanted someone to test my new sword on." The two men laughed as one of them walked over to the boy and was about to draw his sword to kill him when Tsunami yelled at them. "Don't touch him or I'll bite your tongue off. He's just a little boy. Leave him out of this," she said as one of the men grabbed her. The other man laughed at her. "You're lucky, kid. You can thank mommy for saving your worthless life. Or he can cover his eyes, because he won't want to see this." Both men froze before the one near Tsunami found his hand ripped off her and stabbed with a kunai by a Naruto clone standing in front of him and staring at him. Before the man could react, Naruto hit him in the head with another kunai, killing him as his partner growled at him. "You little shit. You think I'm going to let you get away with that?" But before he could move, someone grabbed him from behind and violently twisted his head, breaking his neck. The clone of Naruto behind him just stared down at his body with a cold look. "I hate killing, but you jerks just couldn't leave well enough alone, could you?" he said as he turned to see Tsunami hugging Inari close. "Do the two of you know of any other safe places you could go until this is over? If they came here, that means Zabuza is attacking at the bridge." When Tsunami said yes, he sighed. "Good, we'll take you there before we dispel, because the boss is going to need all the chakra he can get to fight." When Naruto stopped moving, he said, "Damn. Are you okay, Sasuke?" He looked back and saw Sasuke right behind him, panting but otherwise fine, so he nodded his head in response. When Haku said she could use one-handed signs, the fight went a little bit downhill. Haku was so small that he knew Sasuke was weaker than Naruto. He started going after Sasuke so that Naruto would have to use his energy to protect Sasuke instead of blowing away the fake hunter. After another water needle attack came close to killing them, Haku used a jutsu to make a dome of ice mirrors around them. This showed that the boy had a Kekkei Genkai. He then went into the mirrors. At this point, Sasuke couldn't see him, and Naruto was having trouble keeping up. Even more so because the girl kept looking at Sasuke the most. If there was ever a time for you to get your eyes, now is it. Naruto growled as he looked from mirror to mirror, trying to figure out where Haku would strike next. Since her image was in all of them, though, he was only giving himself a tiny bit of notice when she was going to attack. Haku teased Kurai Kitsune, "Just stop protecting him, and I'm sure you could stand up to me. He seems to be nothing but dead weight to you, anyway." She sounded sure of herself, but inside she was yelling at her bad luck and barely keeping it together. Naruto couldn't get to her because he was too busy protecting Sasuke, but he had been throwing kunai at her and was very close. The boy was used to fighting quickly, and if he had put all of his attention on her, she would have lost, and she knew it. Sasuke shouted as he ran through the hand signs for a jutsu, "Dead weight. I'm a Uchiha. I'm the best there is," he yelled, "Kaiten. Gokaku no Jutsu," as he shot a fireball at one of the mirrors, but he was surprised to see that the mirror hadn't even warmed up. "These mirrors are made from my bloodline, the Hyeten. Ice release. They're strengthened by my chakra so they can withstand fire. A weak jutsu like that wouldn't be able to hurt them," Haku said as she prepared senbon in both hands and raised them up to show it. She teased him again by saying, "As I said, dead weight." Then needles flew out of every direction at high speed. Sasuke didn't even get to see what happened before Naruto pushed him to the ground and started deflecting their attacks with a kunai in one hand and a gauntlet in the other. Naruto yelled as he blocked the last needle, "Sasuke, what did I tell you? A name means nothing if you can't back it up. And right now, you can't, so don't fall for her taunts and get sloppy, damn it." Sasuke stood up scowling but didn't say anything. He was only still alive because of Naruto, and he didn't like it. But he still couldn't handle insults to his pride, like being called dead weight, which is why he acted so badly. Naruto asked Sasuke, "The only other fire jutsu you know is the one you learned a week ago, right? That means the one you just used was your strongest, right?" Sasuke agreed. "Okay, I think I have a plan. Let's try again, but this time aim at me." Sasuke was shocked and asked, "What? Why would I shoot at you?" He secretly wished he could beat the boy for all the trouble he had already caused him, but he knew that could happen later. They had to work together right now. "My Hitsume is about as strong as your Gokaku, but if that didn't work, I know mine won't either. I have a few other fire jutsu, but none of them would work in this situation. That's why I'm going to use the full power of my gauntlet," Naruto said, but Sasuke was still confused. "Listen, I'm a wind element, so fire jutsu are hard for me and will always be my weakest jutsu. The Kiba no Makai was a gift and it helps me get around that since just by channeling chakra into it I can create and control fire. If you launched a full power fireball at me I could then use my gauntlet to boost its power and redirect it to the mirrors." Sasuke pulled out a couple of kunai and stood next to Naruto as they started to deflect the attacks. "If you think I'll let you use an attack that makes you so sure of yourself, you're very wrong. Zabuza-sama told me to take care of you too, and I won't fail," Zabuza said as he cut through another clone in the mist he had made, tch, another Mizu Bunshin. "When are you going to stop copying my moves and actually fight Kakashi?" Soon after Haku put his two students in his ice mirrors, the two started fighting. Most of the time, they went after clones of each other to catch them off guard. Zabuza would attack what looked like the real Kakashi, but he would switch to a water clone at the last second. Kakashi would then fight back, but Zabuza would do the same thing. The Kiri Nin put his broadsword on his shoulder and closed his eyes. He then used his hearing to find his enemy. In the first battle, he thought he made a mistake when he tried to fight Kakashi's Sharingan head-on. Even if the man wasn't a real Uchiha, it was a stupid plan. You should never go up against those eyes head-on unless you're sure you're much better. Kakashi was S-ranked and he was A, so charging head-on was a bad idea even without the eye. Kakashi used to be A-ranked like himself, but after the event that made the Kurai Kitsune, he seems to have trained harder and soon pushed through the top level's limits, becoming one of the few S-ranked threats in their world. But Zabuza didn't believe the hype, and in their first fight, he paid for it. Now that he knew better, he knew he was only holding out because he was sneakier and the man couldn't see through the fog. If he lost either of his advantages, he was probably dead, especially since he was using a bad sword instead of his Kabikiri. Kakashi yelled, "Kaiten! Hosenka no Jutsu!" as several small fireballs came out of the mist and flew at Zabuza. Zabuza used a shunshin to get close to Kakashi, then rolled out of the way and swung his sword down. This time, though, he wasn't able to cut through a clone. Instead, he was stopped by a kunai. "You know, if you still had your real sword, I might not have tried this, Zabuza," Kakashi said. Because they were so close, Kakashi noticed that the man had both eyes closed. "Oh, you've been fighting based on what you've heard. That's good. Don't say nice things about me. If I opened my eyes, you'd catch me in a genjutsu and that would be the end of it." "That's true, but you should know that not all genjutsu are based on sight," he said, making the man gasp and jump back as Kakashi whistled. Zabuza stopped moving because he thought he might have been caught. He tried to release his chakra by pulsing his chakra, but several dogs wearing vests and Konoha headbands bit him hard on all his limbs. Zabuza yelled, "What the heck? What kind of genjutsu is this?" When he opened his eyes and saw the dogs holding him down, Kakashi just laughed when he got the man's attention. "I lied, it wasn't a genjutsu. I quietly called those dogs when we were playing hide and seek in the mist. They've been waiting for the right time to attack the whole time." "But how could they track me if they couldn't see me?" Zabuza asked. Kakashi just flicked his nose, making him feel like a fool for not noticing. "If your eyes don't work, follow your nose. These are my specially trained ninja hounds. Only an Inuzuka hound could beat them. It's over for you, Zabuza." Naruto yelled, "Damn it, we need a break," as he moved more needles away from him and Sasuke. Things were getting worse and worse. Haku's needle attack was getting stronger with each run, and Naruto was starting to fall behind. He and Sasuke were sure they had a plan that would help them win, but they couldn't find a chance to use it. Naruto was sure that he could stay alive no matter what the fake hunter did, but he was sure that Sasuke couldn't and could die. Even though Naruto didn't like the Uchiha, he would never let something like that happen. "I can't keep watching over you like this. She's getting faster to the point where I'd have to give it my all to keep up with her." "You've been holding back?" Sasuke asked as he pulled a senbon out of his arm. This piece of information really irritated the boy, because if Naruto had been holding back, why didn't he just stop fighting and kill his opponent? "I can't use my full power when allies are close. It's too dangerous and I don't have that much control over it. You could die in the backlash. So that was why." Well, Sasuke didn't like how Naruto seemed to laugh off his strength, but he was a little glad that he wouldn't risk hurting his teammate. When he saw Haku getting ready to attack again, he pushed those thoughts aside and focused on staying safe so Naruto wouldn't have to. "Pay attention. I won't count on Naruto to keep me safe. I'm good at this." Sasuke kept his eyes on the mirrors as he thought, "I just need to see her, and then I can fight back." With a small movement, the senbon started to fly, but Naruto was easily deflecting them while Sasuke was barely able to stop them. He even saw the blonde block a few that were coming at him from places he couldn't see. "Pay attention." He kept squinting as he blocked more of Haku's attacks, and slowly he saw a small shadow moving from mirror to mirror. Focus, the next attack came, and Sasuke was trying to do better as the shadow started to look like a person. Almost, Sasuke suddenly threw his kunai at one of the mirrors as the needles stopped, just as the shadow seemed to jump into it. Naruto smiled at his friend as the boy with the raven hair took out another kunai. "Finally starting to see things, aren't you?" he asked. Sasuke just gave him a smirk in response. Haku, on the other hand, had different ideas. "Like the other one, he's starting to figure out what I'm up to. I need to end this now, before it's too late." Haku quickly jumped out of the mirrors and started hitting her enemies with pinpoint blows of senbon that went right to their nerves. But it didn't work out that way. Naruto was still able to block every attack that came at him, and Sasuke could too, though it took him more work. Again, when Haku went back to her mirrors, a kunai hit it just as she got there. This time, though, it was much closer to her and she knew it. She gasped when she saw Sasuke when she looked up at the boys. "You're Isa." Naruto looked over and smiled as Sasuke looked confused. When he saw that Sasuke was still confused, he pointed to the kunai in his hand so that Sasuke could see his reflection. When they saw the red eyes with one Tomo on the left and two on the right, they smiled like Naruto. Sharingan, he whispered as he looked back up and smiled at the blonde as he got into a ready position. What do you think about using that plan of yours? As more needles came from the mirrors, Naruto yelled back, I say it's about damn time. Now that he had the Sharingan, Naruto didn't bother to protect Sasuke. Instead, he deflected all the needles that were aimed at him. It didn't matter, though, because Sasuke blocked all of them himself before turning to Naruto and running as fast as he could through hand signs. He shouted, Kaden, Gokakyu no Jutsu, as he sent a big fireball at his teammate. Naruto smiled and put chakra into the gauntlet on his fist. Then, it looked like he reached out and grabbed the fire. With a loud yell, his chakra output went way up, and it looked like he was lifting the fireball above his head. His eyes were closed, and a bit of sweat was running down his face. This is stronger than last time, Sasuke. You've really improved. But now I'll show you why I'm a B rank ninja. The fire in his hands flared up, grew bigger, and turned a light blue as the flames got stronger. Sasuke was amazed as Haku stood in front of her mirrors and stared at herself in shock. That can't get to me. I will be done. She thought this as she started throwing senbon as fast as she could at the blonde. Naruto yelled, and Sasuke saw and was about to move when he did. Duck. Now. Naruto yelled. Sasuke fell to the ground as Naruto turned around and started to swing the fire around himself, melting the senbon before they could hit. Even though the needles were no longer a threat, he didn't stop spinning. Instead, he spread the blue fire around himself to make a ring. Take this. Naruto stopped spinning and pulled his gauntlet out of the fire. Then he reached back and punched the ring right in front of him. It worked right away. The ring grew and blasted all the mirrors. It just barely went over Sasuke's head as he felt the heat of the jutsu on his back. The mirrors broke when they were hit. Haku cut the chakra to her technique when she realized she couldn't use it again. She jumped out of a shard and saw Naruto in her face before she could do anything. He quickly punched her in the stomach, which made her fold over his face. He then hit her chest with several punches and finished with a spinning kick to the face, which sent her rolling along the ground. As he stood up, Sasuke muttered, so strong. He could see that Naruto was much stronger than a genin, even more so now that he had his bloodline. He even said that with his strength, he should be a jonin. So why was he still at the bottom of the system? Why hadn't he been given a bigger job yet? Sasuke watched as Naruto walked up to the fake hunter, shook his head, and walked over himself. That would be a problem at a different time. So, what are we going to do with her? Naruto shrugged his shoulders and looked over to where they could hear birds singing. As the fog started to clear, they saw Kakashi dash forward and stab Zabuza in the chest with a lightning hand. I don't know, but for now we'll tie her up. Now that Zabuza is gone, things should be easy, Naruto said as he reached into his pouch and pulled out some metal wire to tie the girl up so she couldn't move. They heard something that sounded like wood hitting concrete. The pace was like someone walking with a stick. Everyone turned to see a short man in a business suit walking up the side of the bridge that hadn't been finished yet. Hey, Zabuza, you screwed up again, huh? He said with a sneer, before he saw Kakashi pull his hand off Zabuza's chest. Oh my, you really messed up, didn't you? He laughed as Zabuza turned his weak head toward the man. Gado, he muttered as he turned back to face Kakashi. Take care of Haku for me, he said. Kakashi told Zabuza, as the Kiri Nin closed his eyes and fell over, we'll do our best. When the mist finally cleared, Kakashi turned to face Gado. Hundreds of bandits were looking at the ninja with grins and sneers as they stood behind Gado. Gado said, "Ha, so much for that demon of the mist. More like a kitten. Now you, ninja. Step back and let me kill the bridge builder, and you can live." Kakashi walked up to Sasuke and Naruto and nodded when he saw that they had defeated and tied up their opponent. He said, "Good job, you two," but he didn't even look at the businessman, which made him angry and annoyed. "How are your injuries and chakra, you two?" Naruto muttered, "I'm good, sensei." You know why, as he kept a cold look on Gado and his thugs. Sasuke just shrugged. "My arms are a little numb from the girl's senbon, but I'm fine otherwise. Oh, and I woke up my Sharingan, too," he told the older man with a smile. Kakashi agreed and smiled with his eyes. "Congratulations, Sasuke. I'll help you with that when we get home." Gado yelled, "Hey, don't ignore me," to get the attention of the Uchiha and Hatake back on the short man. "I told you to move aside, or you'll die. Tizuna's bridge is the hope for this country. We're not about to let you stop him. Today, you fall Gato. Kakashi calmly declared. Gato growled and waved his arm in front of him to get the men to charge at the three. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Multiple shadow clone technique. With a big blast of smoke, he said, Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Multiple shadow clone technique. When the smoke cleared, an army of the blonde boys stared at him just like the original did a few seconds ago. Even Gato was scared stiff. Naruto said, I'm going to give each of you one chance. Leave Gato and this country for good, or die right here and now, he said. The bandits didn't have much time to think before they started running back to the ships that had brought them there. A few even tripped over themselves and were slightly trampled before struggling to their feet and running away. Yet all of them had left Gato, gave him a wide berth in fact, as they ran. Said businessman had fallen on his ass and was staring up at the army the boy had summoned in fear as the original calmly walked forward. Wait. Gato cried out as the boy kept his slow walk forward. I'll give you whatever you want. Money, land, women, power. I'll give you anything. Just leave me be. He cowered as Naruto stopped in front of him. He waited with bated breath before Naruto struck him hard in the head, knocking him unconscious. He quickly tied the man up before dispelling his clones and walking back. You couldn't give me what I want, he muttered as he rejoined Sasuke and Kakashi. The elder merely nodded his head as Sasuke looked impassive at the display. Inwardly he was both awed and jealous. Mainly at how Naruto had made so many Kage Bunshin with such ease. He was also fully expecting the blonde to just kill Gato and be done with it, but apparently Naruto had different plans. The 3, plus 2 captives, calmly walked over to a seemingly empty portion of the bridge before the air seemed to shimmer and Tazuna and Sakura appeared. Good work keeping Tazuna hidden with your genjutsu, Sakura. Kakashi complimented before facing said bridge builder. He had picked up the hunter and was holding her under his arm as Naruto had Gato over his shoulder. Sasuke merely had his hands in his pockets as he looked on impassively. Tazuna, Nami's troubles are over. Naruto, he told before turning to his student as the blonde merely dropped the man at Tazuna's feet. The old drunk's face went wide with shock before he smiled back at the ninja. Thank you, for everything. You've saved our country. He bowed to them, getting Sakura and Kakashi to look a little sheepish while Sasuke merely smirked. Naruto though had a look of detachment as he picked Gato back up. Let's just head back to the house. I'm tired from today and I just want to sleep, he muttered before walking away. Tazuna just looked at him as Kakashi sighed but started to follow with the rest walking up shortly after. Omake a true team. Where is that guy? Seriously, I kinda figured yesterday was a one-time thing. Koji shouted out as he was pacing back and forth with his arms crossed. Sakuya was leaning against a wooden stump in the training ground, catching up on some missed sleep as Naruto just sat nearby petting Kairi and watching Koji pace. Ya think you or Sakuya could prank him again? Maybe get him to stop being late by it? I don't think it'll work twice, Koji. Plus, I don't want to waste possible supplies cause he said we got a test. Naruto replied before Kairi barked. Koji turned around to see Kakashi walking up with an eye smile in a wave. Hello. You're 3 hours late, you fucking ass. Koji shouted, waking Sakuya up from her sleep. She stretched for a second before standing with a yawn as Naruto also stood up, setting Koji's partner down for her to run back by him. Well, you see, a black cat crossed my path so I had to take the long way around to ward off bad luck. All 3 children knew this was a lie somehow, but he continued as if nothing was wrong. Now, for your test. What is it? Sakuya asked as he reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 bells. He showed them the items before tying them to his waist. This is the test my sensei put me through, and his sensei before him. You have to do everything in your power to get a bell by midday. The one who doesn't get a bell will be tied to the stump and go without lunch as well as be sent back to the academy. This got one to widen his eyes in fear of failing, one to narrow his eyes, and the final to simply look confused. But there's only 2 bells. It's like you're purposely setting someone up to fail, Sakuya stated and Kakashi nodded. I am, and your point is? When none of them had an answer he looked from face to face and nodded. Alright then, start, he called out. In an instant Koji threw down a smoke bomb. When it cleared, all 3 were gone. Huh, I kinda expected one to straight out attack me. Guess they know the purpose of hiding. Well, I'll give them 5 minutes before I actively search for them, he muttered to himself as he looked around. Let me go, Koji. I need a bell. I'm not going back to the academy, Naruto shouted before the older boy smacked him in the head and shushed him. Something's not right with this test, he muttered as Sakuya nodded in agreement next to him. My 2-san never said anything about a 3-man team. It's always 3 genin and a jonin. Always. So why would he purposely fail one of us? It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, he can't do that, can he? He has to either pass or fail all of us together, not only one. She added, which is when Koji's eyes widened before he face-palmed. Of course, together. Man, I'm an idiot. He dropped his hand and grinned. It's gotta be a test of teamwork. The bells are meant to drive us apart so we fail no matter what. But if we work together, then we can get them and prove we're ready to be ninja. I can't believe I didn't realize it. Teamwork is the first thing an Inuzuka is taught since we work with our ninkin from young ages. Naruto looked confused as Sakuya nodded her head in agreement. But what if you're wrong? What if we get the bells but he still fails one of us? Naruto asked the elder boy. Koji just shrugged. Then I'll give you my bell. I'm rookie of the year. Another semester at the academy wouldn't hurt much. The blonde seemed satisfied with this, so he nodded as Koji started to think of a plan. He would suggest something and then Sakuya or Naruto would add their opinion. Both showed surprising ingenuity that Koji guessed was from their shared love of pranking before they all agreed on a final plan. Okay, waiting time is up. Time for me to start hunting them. Kakashi muttered to himself as he walked out to the woods surrounding the clearing and looked around. He didn't make it very far before he activated a tripwire that launched kunai at him. Showing his skill as a jonin, he dodged each with ease. He even managed to catch one by the ring and swing it on his finger lazily. You're gonna have to do better than that, kids, he called out while walking before activating another trap. This time he chose to deflect the kunai, though he noticed a couple weren't even aiming at him but rather they shot past him and activated other traps that continued to launch more kunai at him. Since he was stuck defending, he couldn't close his eyes fast enough when Sakuya jumped out and launched a few flash bombs directly at his face. As he was blinded, he heard more kunai being thrown and dodged just to hear something run past him, narrowly missing him as he used a shunshin, body flicker, to get some distance. Okay, that was a good try. Was that all her or did the others help? We win, sensei. Naruto called out as he looked confused before looking down to see that the bells were gone. The three walked out with Koji smirking as he and a grinning Naruto held a bell with Sakuya smiling along with them. That was fast. Kakashi remarked before shaking his head. I take it the kunai I dodged after the flash was aimed at the bells? And the figure that almost hit you before you ran off was Kairi jumping for the bells. Had to make it convincing, you know. Koji added on as Kakashi nodded. While he took it easy on them, he was still surprised to see that they had gotten the bells so quickly. Alright, that was a great plan. But now it seems that Sakuya will be going back to the academy, Kakashi said, hoping to see if they actually knew the true purpose of the test. No, she won't. He was surprised to see Koji toss her his bell. We realized this is supposed to be a test of teamwork, but if you really want to be an ass and fail one of us, then I agreed to take the fall since I'm the one who brought us together and risked failing. He was then surprised to see half a bell thrown at him and turned to see Naruto had broken his bell in half. No way, I was gonna charge in like an idiot if not for you. Plus, sensei never said we needed a full bell. A broken one should work, right? He grinned as he held out his half towards their sensei, who looked from face to face with a stern expression. Is that your final answer? All three nodded, so he smiled. Congratulations, you all pass. Koji was right, it was a test on teamwork. And at the same time, Naruto came up with a way to pass all of you within the rules too. He's right. I never specified that the bells had to be whole. Said boy grinned as he rubbed the back of his head. Alright, you three, take the rest of the day off and meet back here tomorrow for training and missions. Yane, he ordered as he disappeared in another shunshin. As soon as he was gone, Koji turned to his teammates with a grin. That was awesome. And thanks for the save attempt, Chibi. I'm not a chibi. They both laughed at his shouting about Koji's nickname for him before Sakuya walked up and knelt down. Hey, calm down now. We're all a team, so we've gotta get along, right? She asked with a slight smile, getting the boy to grin and nod. Good, so I'll see you tomorrow, Koji Chibi-kun. She added at the end, getting Koji to start laughing as Naruto started ranting and chasing after her as she laughed. Kakashi watched from the trees with a grin of his own. He was gonna like his team. Sasuke asked, "Where's Naruto?" as he went downstairs for breakfast. His teacher, a teammate, and Tezuna's family were at the table, but Naruto wasn't there. Is he watching over Tezuna? I asked. Kakashi shook his head, paused, and then shrugged. Well, a clone is, but the real one is busy taking care of something. What? Kakashi asked Sasuke and Sakura, who were both thinking about the trip to Nami. Remember what he asked on the way here? Hey, sensei. Is it okay if I go visit after the mission but before we get back? Sakura and Sasuke looked confused as Kakashi looked up from his book and thought about it. I don't see why not. If there's no danger and we finish ahead of schedule, then sure. He then went back to his book as Naruto stared straight ahead with what looked like a blank stare. But Sakura was able to tell that he was thinking about something. She asked, visit where? Naruto opened his eyes a little because he didn't think she would care. But then he looked a little less angry, so he thought he might as well answer. Uzushiogakure was the home of my ancestors. Oh, the ruins of his clan's old village? Sakura asked, and the man nodded his head. Sasuke shrugged before getting himself some food. Even though he was curious about what was there, he knew from experience that Naruto wanted or rather needed to do this. He might not have known his family because they had all died before he was born, but he wanted to find out where he came from and probably pay his respects to those who had died before him. After Itachi killed his clan, Sasuke did the same thing, but he wanted to make sure and force himself to remember his goals. So, even though the Hokage had given him a free apartment after the incident, he kept living on the empty compound. It was something he had to do, and he thought Naruto also thought he had to do it. He wasn't going to bother him about it or ask any more questions. Gato had been caught, and Zabuza was dead, so there were no threats, so it wasn't like he'd have any trouble. Anyway, for today I'm going to work on both of your physical conditioning. Sasuke, you need to get strong enough to use the Kabikiri. And Sakura, you need to be faster so you won't get caught off guard in a fight. Since you're not going to be a frontline fighter, it would be best to work more on your speed than your strength so you can avoid danger and use your genjutsu to help your teammates. They would have to go through training. Tezuna said, I still don't understand why you brought her here, kid, as the Naruto clone who was watching over him was sitting next to Haku. The girl woke up soon after they brought Gato into town. When she heard that Zabuza had died, she was upset and asked to be killed, too. Naruto had hit her in the back to make her stop talking while they figured out what to do with her while the villagers were celebrating Gato's defeat. The man was tied to a post in the middle of town, and people were throwing rotten food at him from all around. Even so, at some point during the night, when no one was looking, his throat was cut and his heart was cut out of his chest. Even though it was a terrible sight, no one was upset that it had happened. They seemed madder that they couldn't watch or that someone had to clean up his bloody mess. Sensei said she was my responsibility until we left or figured out what to do with her, since I saved her life, Naruto said. Haku's hands were tied with ninja wire so she couldn't make hand signs. She also had a chakra seal put on her because they remembered that she could use one-handed seals. They wanted to talk with her about that. Then why didn't you bring her with the real you instead of leaving her here with your clone? And I still don't understand why you wanted to see those ruins. If you were hoping to find something about your old clan, you're out of luck. That place has been cleared out already. Tezuna replied and asked. Before answering, Naruto gave a shoulder shrug. Boss isn't going to the ruins to find something. Ka-san came and cleared out all our clan stuff as soon as the news of its destruction reached Konoha. My clan stuff is already back home. Boss just wants to see his roots. As for why he didn't bring her with him, this was something he wanted to do on his own. Tezuna just shrugged and went back to work. Since Gato was defeated, he had no trouble finding people who wanted to work on the bridge, so he wasn't going to ask the clone to make more clones for him. He didn't know anything about ninjas or their techniques, so he wasn't even sure if the clone could. So he didn't care that the hunter who had tried to kill him was sitting next to the blonde clone and watching from the side. Haku said quietly, but the clone heard, I still wish you would kill me, Naruto-kun. When she always wanted to die, Naruto just rolled his eyes and sighed. It was the only thing she ever said. I'm not going to kill you, Haku, so stop asking me to. No one else is going to kill you, either, so stop begging to die. I've lost the only person who ever gave me a reason to live, who ever cared that I existed, and now that he's gone I have nothing left. Yet you insist on torturing me by making me live without him, she yelled. She was frozen by the clone's sudden surge of killing intent, and when she looked at him, he was just staring at her blankly. He asked, are you being tortured? Is showing mercy to an enemy torture? is saving a life torture? She had trouble getting her words out as she spoke. No, but I don't have anything else left and. So you need someone else to live? Are you that weak? He asked, cutting her off. This made her stop talking. I thought you were strong. What happened to the kunoichi who fought me and Sasuke? During the fight, you seemed like someone who wanted to win. Are you telling me that you're so weak that you can't live without one man? Aren't you alive now? He shouted, making Haku flinch. He was staring at her, but she just looked down. Listen, I get where you're coming from. I really do. I lost my old team, and they were the only people who ever made me happy, who ever made me feel wanted and needed. They saved me from being alone and helped me become strong. But even when they were killed in front of me, I never broke down and asked for death. This is different. I loved him like he was my father. And you think I wasn't close to my old team? I loved one of them like a brother, and I fell in love with the other. He shouted. Haku quickly turned her head to see that he was looking sad and had his eyes closed in memory. Inuzuka Koji and Sakuya. Koji became the brother I never had. And Sakuya, she was perfect. I loved her, but she died before I could tell her. Zabuza knew you cared for him, just as he cared for you. His last words were to ask Kakashi-sensei to take care of you. What do you think he would feel to know you've fallen apart without him to the point that you're begging to die? But what should I do? I don't know what else to tell you except to find something new to live for. As Naruto walked through the destroyed village, he said to himself, Uzushio, so this is where Ka-san was born. Most of the buildings had fallen down or were overgrown with moss and vines. Naruto was walking down the town's main street toward what would have been the home and office of the leader. The blonde kept moving his head from side to side as he looked around and saw places where there should have been people. Uzushiogakure's school turned out to be an old, broken-down building with a big field and a few training dummies. A few smaller buildings with broken or missing seals lined the walls. This was clearly their village archive, and it was probably where his mother Kushina got most of the scrolls and books he had back home. As Naruto walked through the ruins of the village, he came across a big building that was mostly still standing. On the front of the building was the Uzumaki swirl, which was also the village's symbol. In front of the building was a big pool with a whirlpool that never stopped. Naruto said to himself, hey, I can only imagine what this place was like back in the day. He didn't really know what he was doing there, if he was honest with himself. When Konoha heard that the village had been destroyed, his mother went to the ruins and brought back everything of value. Even though he was born and raised in Konoha, he didn't feel any connection to the place. In fact, he had never even been to Nami no Kuni. He thought he would feel something when he went to the village where his mother was born, but he didn't. Without his mother or someone from the village to show him around and tell him about the village, all he saw were crumbling old buildings. And he thought about this as he sat near the whirlpool and just watched the water move around. He didn't know how long he had been there, but when he looked up it was getting dark. I guess I've been here for a long time. Kakashi-sensei is probably worried about me. Not really. He trusts you, Naruto. The blonde turned his head down from the sky to see Sakura walking toward him while looking at the ruins around her. He got up and walked over to her as she stood in front of the leader's office and looked at the red Uzu swirl. She told him, he said you'd be fine, but someone should come and at least let you know to come back soon. I volunteered because I'm a little curious about the ruins. She then turned to face him. And you a little, Naruto said with a laugh. Don't you like Sasuke? What do you think he would say if you started chasing after someone else? He teased, making her blush and huff as she turned away. It's not like that. I'm just curious about my teammate. All we know about you is that you're really skilled, in the bingo book, lost your old team, and had one of the worst childhoods I've ever heard of. But you still act with confidence and strength. You don't smile or seem happy that often, but you try to make sure others are happy. And even though you don't like me or Sasuke-kun, you still go out of your way to. Thank you. It's not often that people are interested in me beyond what I can do. But you should know that I'm not going to just tell you or Sasuke my secrets. You both have to earn that right. She asked. Well, then, what do we have to do? Just let us know, and we'll make sure you know you can trust us, Naruto. We're a team now, aren't we? He laughed a little and started walking back to Tizuna's house. When she heard him talk, she turned and went after him. Just keep getting stronger and better. If you two do that, I'll share some of my secrets with you. Now, let's go back so we don't miss dinner, Sakura. Sakura smiled as she followed the blonde, happy to see that she seemed to have earned some of his respect. Everyone was standing on the bridge when it was finally done, which meant that the ninja who had freed them were going home. Tizuna and his family stood at the front of the crowd, across from Nami. The 3 genin, 1 jonin, and the prisoner stood on the other side of Nami. "Thanks, Tizuna-san, for letting us stay here." The bridge builder said, "No, thank you for everything you've done for us. As soon as we're back on our feet, we'll contact Konoha and pay what we owe them and set up trade agreements." "Thank you, and I'm sure Hokage-sama will be looking forward to it." As he looked them over, Inari asked, "Do you really have to leave now? Can't you stay for a little longer?" The crowd soon joined in with cheers and similar talk about how they wanted them to stay. "Sorry, but we have to go home. We have things to do. But don't worry, we'll try to come see you when we have time off." When Naruto just smiled at him, Inari's eyes started to tear up. Before he left, he told him, "Make sure you do everything you can to protect your family." Sasuke gave a smirk and then turned to follow. As they walked away, Kakashi and Sakura both smiled, and the older one gently pulled Haku along by the shoulder. As they left, Tizuna let out a grunt. "Hey, you know, the bridge still needs a name." Everyone was quiet until Inari spoke up. "How about Naruto?" Tizuna asked. People seemed to agree and start talking as he smiled. "Yes, the Great Naruto Bridge is named after the boy who helped free this country from oppression. I like it." Haku asked, "So, what will happen to me when we get to Konoha?" As they started walking back to the village. When Kakashi and Naruto looked at each other, Sasuke and Sakura also stopped. Naruto walked up to her and untied her hands, which surprised her and the 2 newer ninja. Naruto told her, "That's really your choice, Haku. You don't have to come to Konoha with us if you don't want to." She gave her wrists a light rub before turning to see that the boy was back on the path. "But, aren't I your prisoner? Wouldn't Konoha want me for my bloodline?" she asked, knowing that, unlike her home country Kiri, Konoha loved bloodline clans. When Naruto stopped, he gave a shrug and didn't turn around. "Kakashi-sensei said that since I saved your life, you were my responsibility while we were in Nami. But now that we're out of Nami, you can go do whatever you want. You're a good person, Haku. I'm sure you can find something to do with your life." Haku looked down as she still didn't know what to do and was fully expecting to be dragged back to Konoha for the Hokage to decide what to do with her. By now, Sakura and Sasuke knew that she wasn't bad or mean. She just did what someone with much lower morals than most told her to do. They really couldn't blame her for that. Sakura had even spent some time with her, and when she found out that Haku knew a lot about herbs, she asked her to teach her a little. They had become friends, and Sakura was worried about her. She asked Haku, "Hey, what was Zabuza's goal anyway? Why did he need the money Gato was offering?" Haku just smiled. He wanted to raise money for a revolt against the Mizukage. So much for Zabuza being a good person. The Yondaime Mizukage has been ordering the genocide of any families and clans with bloodlines, and even some that were normal but tried to help those with Kekkei Genkai. Kiri has become a bloody mess under his rule, and Zabuza-sama wanted to try to build it back up into a respectable and powerful village. Never mind, it looked like he had a good heart underneath his merciless killer persona after all. Hearing what the Mizukage was doing made both Sasuke and Naruto want to growl and curse at him, but they didn't. Instead, they let their dislike for someone like that show on their faces. "Well, then, why don't you try to do that for him?" asked Sakura. Haku looked confused but Kakashi spoke up. "You know, a few years ago, a woman came to Konoha asking for help to overthrow the Mizukage. She had 2 bloodlines and was the leader of the current rebellion fighting their Yondaime," Kakashi said. He remembered this because, the woman was by far the most beautiful person he had ever seen, and b. he and Naruto were coming back from a mission when they heard the end of their conversation about her. "Hokage-sama had to turn her down because we didn't have the resources to help out at the time, but they should still be around. I'm sure with your bloodline, they'd be more than happy to accept you into their group to help. Plus, when you tell them you were trained by Zabuza Momochi, that may give you some sway in their ranks as well." Haku looked at him for a while before looking from face to face and nodding her head. "Thank you for telling me about this and giving me the chance to fulfill my master's dream. If we ever meet again, know that I consider you all friends and will do whatever I can to help you." Naruto replied with a small smile, "Don't worry about it. Just live your life to the fullest." He then turned and walked away. Sasuke just gave a short nod and then followed Sakura as she shook his hand and walked away. With a smile and a pat on the shoulder, Kakashi gave her a folded piece of paper. Here's a map so you can get around. We hope to see you again sometime, Haku. He started walking after his students as Haku smiled and looked at the map and then at the Konoha ninja. She thought, thank you so much, and then went her own way. Mission accomplished. Hokage-sama, Kakashi told the old man as he stood in front of him with his genin in front of him. After leaving Haku, they got back to the village later that day because they went through the trees to get there faster. After checking in at the gate, they went straight to the Hokage's office to tell him about their mission and find out if there was anything they needed to know. Before he looked at Kakashi, Sarutobi Hiruzen gave them a stern look. You took longer than I thought you would. Why? Kakashi then gave a verbal report on the whole mission, from meeting the Demon Brothers to letting Haku go after they left the bridge. The Hokage would look at the genin whenever they were mentioned during his speech. Kakashi told Sasuke that the boy had awakened his bloodline, which didn't surprise him. He also told Sakura that with her perfect control, she had climbed a tree in one go and easily learned a genjutsu from him. When Haku's name was said, Naruto's face stayed blank and cold, but his eye moved very slightly. If the Hokage wasn't watching him at the time, he might not have known what happened. I see. You will be paid for an A-rank mission for this. I'm also giving you the whole week off to recover and rest. New genin shouldn't be put in situations like this, even with a S and B ranked ninja on their side, Sarutobi said with a smile. I'm proud of how you handled yourselves, Sasuke and Sakura. For your first time out in the field, you did very well. They both smiled, or, in Sasuke's case, smirked, as Kakashi turned to face them. Can you think of anything else? Naruto took Zabuza's blade, Kabikirabocho, from him during the fight. When he decided he didn't need it anymore, he gave it to Sasuke and Sakura. Sasuke accepted it, so he'll start training to use it. Other than that, I can't think of anything else. Well, then, I hope you train hard with your new weapon, Sasuke. You three can go. I need to talk to Kakashi about something. The genin nodded and left, leaving their sensei and the Hokage alone. How about Naruto? He still has some problems with them, but he is opening up and starting to trust them. This is probably the happiest I've seen him since they died. Hiruzen asked, the tests are coming up in a few weeks. Do you think they'll be ready in time? Kakashi was quiet and looked like he was thinking deeply before he shrugged his shoulders. You know that once the council finds out that Sasuke not only opened his eyes, but also got a legendary blade, they'll push to have him in the exams as a show of strength. It would be much less paperwork and headaches if they didn't, but you know what'll happen. I can't make this mission secret because nothing happened that would require it. I'll try to get Sakura and Sasuke to that level as quickly as I can, but I'm more worried about what Naruto will do if I give them the chance. The Hokage said, they are in Konoha this time, so the risks aren't as high, and this would be the best time to do it instead of waiting until the next time we host them. Kakashi agreed by nodding his head, but he still had something to say. He might still not like it. Naruto walked into his apartment with a small frown on his face. He took off his jacket and put it on his couch before going into his kitchen to make something to eat. Thanks to the security seals and self-cleaning seals he put all over the place, it still looked as nice as it did when he left. Since he got his inheritance, he had been studying the strange art that his clan was known for. He was now only second in the art to Jiraiya of the Sannin. Even after becoming a ninja, there were still a lot of break-ins. People did it even after he became the Kurai Kitsune. So, he set up seals that would hurt anyone he didn't code as safe, which was only himself, Kakashi, Hokage Gigi, and Jiraiya at the time. His mother may have come up with the idea for the self-cleaning seals because she didn't like to clean but still wanted to live in a spotless home. The best part was that all he had to do to keep them and his security seals working was pump a lot of chakra into them once a month. As Naruto grabbed the sandwich he had made, he walked over to a bookshelf he had filled with scrolls and took a red one down before sitting down on his couch. He took the scroll apart and put a small amount of chakra into the seal matrix written on it. A big white book appeared in a puff of smoke. Just as he was about to open the door, someone knocked on it. He put the book down with a sigh and took a bite of his food before walking over to it and opening it. He asked Sasuke, "What are you doing here?" Because he wasn't sure how the boy knew where he lived. He hadn't told him or Sakura, and from what he knew, neither had Kakashi. So how did he know he lived there? I wanted to ask you something, and I also came here to get my new sword since you still have the scroll that sealed it, Naruto said. He then walked inside with Sasuke following him and looking around. One thing he noticed was that pictures covered most of the walls. Most of them were of him with Kakashi, a brown-haired boy with red triangles on his cheeks, or a girl with purple hair and dark eyes. Some of the pictures were of groups of people, and some were just of other people without him. He noticed with a smirk that Naruto seemed to be younger in a lot of them and was wearing a bright orange jumpsuit. This told Sasuke when these pictures were taken. While Naruto looked in his jacket for the right scroll, Sasuke just looked through the pictures and stopped on one that showed the whole group. Kakashi was standing behind the three of them with one of his eye smiles. The older boy stood in front of him with a small brown dog on his head. Naruto stood to his left grinning with his eyes squinted into slits, and the girl stood to her right with a smile on her face. When Naruto turned around with the scroll and saw what Sasuke was looking at, his face seemed to drop a little. "That's my old team." Sasuke turned around and saw Naruto holding out the scroll with a longing look on his face as he looked at the picture. The Rookie of the Year, Inuzuka Koji and his Ninken Kairi. The top Kunoichi, an orphan named Sakuya. And then the early graduate who happened to still be the Dobi, me. Back then, I was pretty much an idiot who would scream I was going to be Hokage and would charge in without a plan or any skills. It's a miracle I didn't die on my first mission. "Hey, why does that other guy have your gauntlet?" he asked, pointing to Koji, who was holding up his left hand with the gauntlet on it while Naruto smiled and held Kairi in his arms. Naruto said, "Remember when I said this was a gift? The Kiba no Makai was originally his. He gave it to me for my 11th birthday because I didn't have any elemental jutsu or distance attacks at the time. All I had was my Kage Bunshin and he had his clan techniques and a few Kaiten jutsus to use." He then shook his head to clear his mind and turned to Sasuke. "So, you said you wanted to ask me something?" Sasuke looked at the picture for a moment longer before turning to face him. "Yeah, after you left, Sakura and I decided to train a bit during our week off. Sakura was going to go ask Kakashi-sensei for more help with genjutsu and stuff, and I thought you could help me with this," he said, pointing to the scroll holding his new sword. "Then, when the week was over and we all got back together, I'd ask Kakashi for help with my Sharingan, and Sakura would probably ask you for something. You've shown you know a lot and you want us to get stronger, so we thought you'd be willing to help us." Sasuke didn't like that he had to ask for help, wanting to just demand it because of his Uchiha heritage, but he knew Naruto would refuse him if he did. He also admired Naruto's strength and wanted to get there as soon as possible so he could kill Itachi. Naruto just thought about it for a second before shrugging his shoulders and saying, "I guess I don't have anything better to do. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the training grounds, alright?" "Okay, I'll see you later," Sasuke said with a smirk and a nod. "Yeah, see you later, Naruto." As he left and shut the door, Naruto thought of something he wanted to ask. He sighed and sat back down on his couch, grabbing the book again. "Damn, I forgot to ask how he knew where I lived," he said. "I guess I'll just ask him tomorrow." Omake. A meeting of young people D ranks were the most annoying things a shinobi could have to deal with. That was the unspoken agreement between the three genin as they walked away from the Hokage Tower after returning the cat they had to catch. They had a good grasp on teamwork already, not very surprising with an Inuzuka on the team. Each also had their own skills that they flourished in as well. Koji had his clan techniques to use. Sakuya was also a good close-range fighter and seemed to have a knack for being able to tell a person's general thoughts or feelings just by their expression, and Naruto was very good at making traps and seemed to be inexhaustible. Perhaps he could teach the blonde a couple good ninjutsu to go with that energy, and maybe give Sakuya a few books on muscle reading so she could hone that already impressive level she had on instinct. She's likely make one hell of an interrogator if she ever wanted to get off the front lines and cultivate that skill of hers. The only reason he still got away with it so easily was because he had his face almost completely covered, otherwise he'd have to start using the blank mask all Jonin develop. As for the jutsu he could teach Naruto, it would have to be something that didn't really need control and could also be versatile enough to fix the large gap in his lack of combat skills. Maybe the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu since both Sakuya and Koji are helping him out with that taijutsu of his. With his reserves it shouldn't be a problem. But that's for later, he thought as they arrived at the field. "Okay, team. Since we've been together for about 2 weeks and you guys already know how to work as a team and mostly cover each other's flaws, I think I should start you on the next step in chakra control." Koji nodded, and Sakuya just looked ready to listen. Naruto, on the other hand, tilted his head to the side and asked a question. Why does that matter? Koji and Sakuya tried not to sigh at that. They kept forgetting that even though he had graduated early, he had barely done so. Because of this, he only knew the bare basics that were required and nothing more. He was a fun kid and an enthusiastic shinobi, but he was dumber than a sack of bricks. Well, Naruto, controlling your chakra is important because it helps you use your jutsu more effectively. It also lets you try out a lot of different techniques in the future. Plus, this exercise turns into a valuable skill that all shinobi can do without thinking. Watch. Kakashi then walked over to a tree and climbed it straight up without stopping. He then stood upside down on a branch and looked down at them. I'm sending chakra to my feet right now so I can stick to the tree. The feet are the hardest part of the body to get chakra to, so if you can learn to do this, you could learn any jutsu with enough practice. Now it's your turn, you three. Use a running start since you're still learning. The three genin nodded and started running up nearby trees. Or trying to. Koji made it 6 steps before flipping off as the wood splintered under his feet. Sakuya made 10 before her grip seemed to slip and she fell, though she managed to spring off her hands to avoid injury, and Naruto only made it 3 steps before falling on his head. If you have too much chakra, like Koji did, you will lose your hold. When they were getting ready to go again, Kakashi said, too little and you'll fall off like Naruto and Sakuya. After a couple of hours, Kakashi was happy with his team. Sakuya was now running up and down the tree with ease because she knew how much chakra to use and was just building up her reserves and stamina, which, while bigger than the average girls, were still the smallest on the team. Koji was getting closer but hadn't reached the top yet, and Naruto was about halfway there himself. Dynamic entry. A man with a black bowl cut, green spandex, orange leg warmers, and a Jonin vest flew into the clearing, destroying the log in his way. When he landed from his kick, 3 kids and a dog stopped to look at him, and they all froze when they saw his eyebrows, which were thicker than anything they'd ever seen. The man ignored them and looked around for a moment before shouting, Kakashi, my eternal rival. Where do you live? What are you doing here, guy? Kakashi calmly replied as he walked up to the side of his students. Guy, as he was now known, just gave him a thumbs up and a big smile. Was there a ping when that happened? And kept going, not noticing that the kids were there. Aha. There you are, my rival for all time. I've come back to you for another challenge to test how young we are. Usually, Kakashi would make up an excuse or just do it to get it over with, but he thought he had a good reason this time and might be able to use it to get out of more of Guy's challenges in the future. Guy was a good friend, but his constant challenges got on his nerves after a while. Sorry, Guy, I'm busy training my genin, he said, pointing to the 3 students who were still shocked. Guy looked at them for a moment, and then his face seemed to light up. Oh, I'm so sorry that I didn't notice you sooner, young ones. I am the best taijutsu expert in the village. My name is Maeda Guy. It's great to finally meet you. He said his name again and gave them a thumbs up and a smile. Seriously, where did that pinging come from? They nodded to show that they understood. Inuzuka Koji, that's Kairi, he said, pointing to his ninkin. Sakuya, he said, pointing to the only human girl on the team. And Uzumaki Naruto, he finished, pointing to the youngest member of their team. Guy nodded to the 3 of them before turning back to Kakashi. I didn't know you were playing a rival team, but I'm up for the challenge. Why what? Kakashi stuttered, because he hadn't expected that answer. Guy didn't seem to hear him, though, because he was lost in his own thoughts. Yosh. I'll get my own team from the next group of high school graduates and train them to be the best in the village and beat yours. And if I can't do that, I'll run around Konoha 500 times while carrying 10 tons. And if I can't do that, a guy went on ranting, not noticing that Kakashi had grabbed his genin and silently led them away. When they were far enough away, Kakashi gave a quick glance back at the training ground they had just left. Dear Kami-sama, what just happened? Guys, if you ever meet a group of genin who say that man is their sensei, I want you to apologize on my behalf. Kakashi told the 3, who were still stunned and looking back at the trees they had just left. I had no idea or intention of letting Guy out on them. The 3 nodded in agreement as Kakashi led them away, saying that their training for the day was over.
So this was it for today. I will continue the story in next part. Till then, we weeb offline.